How does that happen? And the people in jail, as you know, are disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American. So together, we are going to take on and fight institutional racism and a broken criminal justice system. We spend $80 billion a year of taxpayer money locking up fellow Americans. There are a lot better ways to spend money than locking up fellow Americans. And this campaign is listening to our brothers and sisters in the Latino community. And they are telling me that they are tired of being exploited, tired of living in the shadows, tired of seeing a family member being deported and families being separated. And what they want and what I want is comprehensive immigration reform and a path toward citizenship. Now, this campaign is different than other campaigns in a whole lot of ways. It's not just that we have the most progressive agenda, but it's something more profound than that. It is me telling you what no other candidate for president will tell you, and that is that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can make the changes this country desperately needs alone. Can't do it alone. No president, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how hard-working he or she may be, no matter how smart, no president can take on the power of Wall Street, corporate America, corporate media, and these huge campaign contributors alone. And that is why, yeah, I'm going to be asking for your vote on Tuesday, but I need more than that from you. I need your help the day after the general election, because I can't do it alone. What the political revolution is about is revitalizing American democracy and making sure that every American understands that, yes, football is a spectator sport. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Every person in this room is extremely powerful if you choose to use your power. And what I will tell you, because I am in the United States Senate and see how things get done, there are people up there who have incredible wealth and power, and what they want is for Americans not to vote, not to be thinking about politics, not to get involved in the shaping of the future of America. What they want is low voter turnouts, low public consciousness, so that the lobbyists and the big money interests can control the future of this country. And our job is to take them on and to say that men and women fought and died for American democracy, and we are going to revitalize American democracy. We are going to have a government which represents all of us, not just a handful of campaign contributors. Now, I want to take a brief moment just to mention to you the differences on some key issues between Secretary Clinton and myself. Number one, maybe most importantly, when we began this campaign, we had to make a very important decision. And that decision was, do we have a super PAC or do we not have a super PAC? We concluded at the end of about 1 second that given the fact that we don't represent Wall Street, we don't represent the billionaire class, we will not have a super PAC. And here is what is absolutely extraordinary and something that I would not have believed I would be able to tell you 9-10 months ago. We have now in our campaign received over 4 million individual contributions. That is more contributions than any candidate in the history of this country up until this point. And do you know what that average contribution is? With such a brilliant audience here, there's no way we're going to lose Minnesota. I can see that. You are just too smart. I can see that. It is $27. And to paraphrase Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg, this is a campaign of the people, by the people, and for the people, and I'm proud of that. Now, Secretary Clinton has chosen another path to raise money. She has several super PACs recently. One of her super PACs reported raising $25 million in a filing period, $15 million from Wall Street. Now, every candidate, Democrat or Republican, throughout history has always said, oh yes, I receive millions and millions of dollars from Wall Street, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry. Doesn't impact me. Doesn't impact me. They just give me that money for the fun of it. They just throw that money around, doesn't impact me. And then on top of that, Secretary Clinton, as you may know, gave some speeches to Goldman Sachs for $225,000 a speech. Now, I think if you get $225,000 for a speech, it must be a really excellent, wonderful speech. And therefore, you should be very proud to release the transcript of that speech. Clearly must have been an unforgettable speech. Share it with the people. Second issue. Everybody knows how important foreign policy is to our country, and the decisions we make are decisions of life and death. Back in 2002, the most important foreign policy debate in the modern history of this country took place. And the debate was over whether or not we listen to President Bush and Vice President Cheney and Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld and go into war in Iraq. Now, I listened to those speeches that they gave and their remarks very, very thoroughly, because I, as other members of Congress, know that the decisions we make will impact in very real life and death ways young men and women in our states. I listened very, very carefully. I concluded that they were lying, and I voted against the war in Iraq. And it gives me, as the senator from a state which suffered very heavy casualties in that war, it gives me no pleasure to tell you that much of what I feared would happen if we invaded Iraq, in fact, did happen. Go to my website, berniesanders.com, look at what I said back in 2002, and my fear about the political vacuum and the instability that would be created. Secretary Clinton heard the same evidence, listened to the same speeches. She voted for the war. That's a real difference. When we talk about why the middle class is disappearing and why, for millions of Americans, real wages are going down, a lot of that has to do with our disastrous trade policies like NAFTA, CAFTA, permanent normal trade relations with China. Now, this is an issue the media doesn't talk about at all. You can hardly see any discussion of trade on television, just none, for pretty obvious reasons in terms of who owns the corporate media. But these are issues of huge consequence. And what this trade issue is about is not complicated. You don't have to have a PhD in economics to understand it. And what it's about is corporate America writing trade agreements which say, why do I have to pay workers in Minnesota or Vermont a good wage with good benefits, protect the environment, deal with unions, when I can shut down plants in the United States and move to low-wage countries, not worry about unions or the environment, and then I bring my product back into this country. That's all that is. And here's what's happened. Since 2001, we have lost almost 60,000 factories in this country and millions of decent-paying jobs. People who once worked in a factory, made a middle-class wage, had good benefits, are now flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. Now, I voted and helped lead the opposition against all of these trade agreements. I am helping to lead the opposition against the TPP. Secretary Clinton supported NAFTA, supported permanent normal trade relations with China. Now, when we talk about what's going on in this country and why there is so much angst and frustration, it has everything to do with the fact that in Minnesota, Vermont, all over this country, we got millions of people who are working not one job, they're working two jobs, they're working three jobs. And despite an explosion of technology and an increase in worker productivity, their wages are going down. So you got mom working, you got dad working, you got the kids working, you got marriages that are being stressed because people don't have time to spend together, kids not getting the attention they deserve. We have people, our country, people in America working the longest hours of any people in the industrialized world. Do you all know that? Japanese are very hard workers. We work longer hours than do the Japanese. And at the end of all of that, 58% of all new income goes to the top 1%. And then